Have you ever noticed how easy it is to speak what you see? When bills increase, we say, I don't know how I'll make it. When challenges rise, we say things are getting worse. When opportunities seem small, we say there just isn't enough. Many people speak lack every day and never realize they are strengthening the very thing they want to escape. But God never intended His people to live imprisoned by words of defeat. Heaven operates by faith. Faith does not deny reality, but faith refuses to give reality the final word. God's Word teaches us that life and death are in the power of the tongue. That means your words are not empty sounds drifting through the air. Your words carry direction. Your words reveal what is filling your heart. Today we are going to uncover a powerful truth. When you learn to speak abundance instead of lack, you begin aligning yourself with God's promises rather than your circumstances. And when your words begin agreeing with God, faith begins to rise. There are many believers who love God with all their hearts, and yet they continually live under a cloud of limitation. They pray for provision while speaking poverty. They ask God for breakthrough while confessing defeat. They ask for victory while expecting failure. Now think about that for a moment. A farmer does not plant corn and expect wheat. He plants according to the harvest he desires. Yet many people sow words of fear and expect a harvest of faith. They say, I never have enough. Nothing good ever happens to me. I don't think things will change. I'll always struggle. What are those words doing? They are creating expectation. They are reinforcing limitation. They are building walls around possibilities God wants to open. Many people speak these things so often that they no longer recognize what they are saying. Those words become part of everyday conversation. They become automatic responses. Someone asks how things are going, and immediately the answer comes, I'm barely making it. Another person says, life has been hard all my life. Someone else says, I don't think I'll ever get ahead. They speak these words casually, without realizing that words are never merely sounds leaving the mouth. Words reveal what has settled into the heart. Jesus taught that out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. If fear is filling the heart, fear will eventually come out through words. If doubt is filling the heart, doubt will find a voice. If faith is growing inside, faith will also begin speaking. Sometimes people believe they are speaking honestly when they speak negatively. They say, I'm just telling it like it is. But there is a difference between recognizing a challenge and continually exalting that challenge. There is a difference between acknowledging a problem and giving that problem authority over your life. If a person constantly says, I will never make it, those words slowly begin shaping expectation. The mind starts accepting defeat before the battle has even begun. Confidence weakens. Hope begins fading. Possibilities appear smaller and smaller. That is why words matter so much. Your words are continually moving in one direction or another. They are either feeding faith or feeding fear. They are either building expectation or strengthening limitation. They are either agreeing with God's promises or agreeing with circumstances. People often spend years speaking weakness over themselves. I can't do anything right. I'll never overcome this. Things always go wrong for me. They repeat those statements until they become established beliefs. Then those beliefs begin influencing decisions, attitudes, and actions. Fear starts controlling choices. Doubt begins determining expectations. Limitation begins feeling normal. Many people speak these things so often that they no longer recognize what they are saying. Those words become part of everyday conversation. They become automatic responses. Someone asks how things are going, and immediately the answer comes, I'm barely making it. Another person says, life has been hard all my life. Someone else says, I don't think I'll ever get ahead. They speak these words casually, without realizing that words are never merely sounds leaving the mouth. A person can repeat something so many times that eventually it stops sounding like an opinion and starts sounding like truth. What began as a temporary feeling slowly becomes a permanent confession. A difficult season becomes an identity. A challenge becomes a label. A struggle becomes a definition of who they think they are. Think about how often people repeat negative things about themselves. They may say, "I have always been unlucky. I never seem to succeed. I don't have what other people have. Nothing ever works out for me." They may not even believe they are speaking against themselves. They think they are simply expressing frustration. They think they are only describing life as they see it. But every repeated statement settles deeper into the heart. Words have a way of shaping perspective. If a person walks around every day saying, "I can't," eventually they stop looking for opportunities. If they keep saying nothing will ever change, they stop expecting change. If they continue saying, "I'll always struggle," they begin preparing themselves for failure instead of preparing themselves for victory. People often become prisoners of their own language without realizing it. Their mouths establish boundaries around what they believe is possible. They unknowingly create limits that God never created. God may be opening doors while they are talking themselves out of walking through them. God may be presenting opportunities while they are confessing reasons they cannot succeed. The problem is not always what people face. Many times the problem becomes what people repeatedly say about what they face. Two individuals can stand in the same situation and speak completely different words. One person says, "This challenge is too big." Another says, "God will help me through this." One person says, "There is no way out." Another says, "There is an answer I cannot see yet." One speaks limitation, while the other speaks expectation. That difference may appear small at first. It may seem like nothing more than positive language or a better attitude. But faith-filled words begin affecting the inner person. Words influence thinking. Thinking influences expectation. Expectation influences direction. Direction influences choices. What a person continually says eventually starts becoming what they continually anticipate in life. Many people spend years repeating the same defeated language until discouragement becomes familiar and lack comes expected, and struggle becomes normal, and fear begins sounding more believable than promise, and limitation starts feeling stronger than possibility, and uncertainty begins controlling the picture they see in their minds. Sometimes people believe they are speaking honestly when they speak negatively. They say, "I'm just telling it like it is." They feel that if they speak anything different, they are pretending reality does not exist. They believe that repeating what they see is simply being practical, sensible, and realistic. But there is a difference between recognizing a challenge and continually exalting that challenge. There is a difference between acknowledging a problem and giving that problem authority over your life. A person can face a difficult situation and still refuse to allow that situation to become the loudest voice in their life. Faith does not require blindness. Faith does not ask anyone to deny circumstances. Faith does not say that bills are not real, that pain does not exist, or that difficulties are imaginary. Faith simply refuses to allow present circumstances to become greater than God's promises. Imagine someone standing before a mountain and talking about how large it is every single day. They discuss its size, its height, and its difficulty. They tell everyone around them how impossible it looks. Morning after morning and night after night, they repeat the same words. Eventually, they become convinced that nothing can ever move that mountain. Fear grows stronger. Confidence becomes weaker. Discouragement settles into the heart. Another person may stand before the same mountain and recognize that it exists. They do not pretend it is absent. They do not ignore reality, but they choose to speak differently. They say, "This challenge may be great, but God is greater." They say, "There is a way, even if I cannot see it yet." They say, "I believe there is help, wisdom, and strength available." The mountain itself has not changed yet, but something is already changing inside the person speaking. Their expectation begins moving in a different direction. Their focus shifts from limitation to possibility. Their attention moves away from the problem and toward the one who is greater than the problem. Many people unknowingly magnify difficulties with their words. They rehearse problems repeatedly until those problems seem larger than they really are. The more they talk about fear, the stronger fear appears. The more they talk about failure, the more failure begins feeling inevitable. The more they repeat defeat, the more defeat starts appearing like a certainty. Words have a way of enlarging whatever receives continual attention. If people constantly speak weakness, weakness begins occupying more space in their thoughts. If they continually speak lack, lack begins controlling expectation. If they constantly speak anxiety, anxiety begins shaping perspective. People may think they are simply being honest when they repeatedly say negative things, but honesty without faith can slowly become agreement with limitation. A challenge may be real, but it does not deserve the highest place in a person's thinking, and it does not deserve the strongest voice in a person's confession. If a person constantly says, "I will never make it," those words slowly begin shaping expectation. At first, it may sound like nothing more than a passing statement spoken during a difficult moment. It may seem like a harmless expression of frustration or exhaustion. But words have a way of remaining in the mind long after they leave the mouth. They continue echoing inwardly, repeating themselves until they begin sounding more like truth than emotion. People rarely realize how powerful repeated words can become. The human mind is constantly listening to what the mouth says. Every confession, every statement, every repeated phrase leaves an impression. When someone continually says, "I will never make it," the mind starts accepting that message. It starts building thoughts around that expectation. Gradually, the imagination begins painting pictures of defeat rather than victory. Once expectation begins changing, behavior often changes with it. A person who believes they will fail approaches opportunities differently. They become hesitant. They become uncertain. They stop moving forward with confidence because they have already accepted defeat in their thinking. Fear starts influencing decisions before action even begins. Think about someone standing before an open door of opportunity. They may have the ability, the resources, and the chance to move forward, but inwardly they keep repeating, "This probably won't work. I'm not qualified. Other people can succeed, but not me." Those words begin creating hesitation. Instead of stepping forward, they pull back. Instead of expecting progress, they expect disappointment. The tragedy is that many people blame circumstances when the deeper issue is expectation. They think closed doors are keeping them back, while sometimes their own words have quietly closed doors in their thinking. They have accepted limitations that God never intended them to carry. They have built invisible walls with repeated confessions of fear and defeat. Words are like seeds planted into the soil of the heart. A seed does not produce a harvest overnight. It enters the ground quietly and remains unseen for a season, yet beneath the surface something is developing. In the same way, repeated words continue working beneath the surface of a person's thoughts and beliefs. If someone plants seeds of doubt day after day, doubt eventually grows. If someone plants seeds of fear repeatedly, fear eventually becomes stronger. If someone continually plants words of limitation, limitation begins taking root in expectation. Many people wonder why they struggle to believe for better things while spending years speaking against themselves. They speak weakness over their future. They speak defeat over their opportunities. They speak failure over situations before anything has even happened. They continue feeding the wrong expectations until discouragement starts appearing natural and uncertainty begins sounding familiar and defeat begins feeling like something already decided in the mind. That is why words matter so much. Your words are continually moving in one direction or another. They are never standing still and they are never empty. Every day, through ordinary conversations and simple statements, people are releasing words that are influencing the atmosphere of their own thinking and expectation. Whether they recognize it or not, words carry agreement. They agree with fear or they agree with faith. They agree with limitation or they agree with possibility. Many people think words only become important during prayer or during moments of worship, but words matter in everyday life just as much. Words spoken during ordinary moments often reveal what truly lives inside the heart. A person may speak words of faith during church gatherings, but throughout the week speak words filled with doubt, fear, and defeat. Then they wonder why confidence seems weak and expectation seems small. Words are continually building something within a person. They are constructing thought patterns, expectations, and beliefs. Like bricks laid one at a time, repeated statements slowly create structures in the mind. A single brick may not appear significant, but many bricks placed together eventually become walls. In the same way, repeated words can either build walls of limitation or foundations of faith. If a person spends every day saying, "Nothing ever works out for me," those words begin laying bricks of discouragement. If they repeatedly say, "I can't overcome this," they continue adding bricks of weakness. If they continually say, "I never have enough," they build expectations of lack. Little by little, statement by statement, a structure forms in their thinking. After a while, they may begin living inside walls they unknowingly built themselves. They may stop expecting opportunities because limitation has become familiar. They may stop believing for change because defeat has become comfortable. They may stop moving forward because fear has convinced them that progress is impossible. On the other hand, words of faith begin building something different. When a person continually says, "God will help me," strength begins rising inwardly. When they say, "There is a way even if I cannot see it," hope begins growing. When they say, "I believe provision is coming," expectation begins changing. Those words may seem simple, but they continue placing foundations beneath confidence and trust. The interesting thing about words is that people often underestimate small statements because they are looking only for dramatic moments. They think only major declarations matter while forgetting that everyday conversations are shaping their outlook little by little. Small phrases repeated every day become established thoughts. Established thoughts become beliefs. Beliefs influence direction. People speak thousands of words every day. They talk about themselves, their future, their families, their opportunities, and their circumstances. Every statement becomes an opportunity to strengthen faith or strengthen fear, to reinforce possibility or reinforce limitation, to agree with promise or agree with doubt, to create expectation or create hesitation, to encourage confidence